Gangster Bet is Icon's next generation NFT collectibles of 5,555 gangsters and detectives, with changeable names and stats. Holders of Gangster Bet NFTs receive daily distributions of GBet tokens. GBet can be used to upgrade their NFT skills and stats. The supply of GBet will decrease over time and will stop after 9 years. Holding Gangster Bet NFTs will have opportunities for future airdrops and will give you access to Gangster Bet's highly anticipated metaverse. Learn more at gangsterbet.io. Shout out to our sponsors at Icon Bet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. Icon Bet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, the episode where we go around the Icon Foundation. That's right, and get you the latest news around the incentive program. So in this episode, I quickly interview Min, Scott, Daeki and TJ, and they will play in that order, and they share their views on what they feel like and what they hope to see come out of the incentive program. Each and every one, I ask very similar questions. However, as the conversation starts to get into it, everyone starts drifting off and sharing a bit of their own narrative, you could say, of what they hope can come out of BTP and the incentive program, obviously. So without stealing the show in any way, let's just jump right into the interviews. One after the other, they'll start to play. And I really hope you enjoyed this show. We at Iron Icon are over the moon around the incentive program. And it just, for me personally, like it went to show that, you know, they've always been saying the flagship product, and here we are, interoperability. It's just around the corner, and I know you're probably going to dive in and go, "Oh, have we got a date?" No, this interview we don't talk dates. We talk the value add of the incentive program and what it means for the industry and for Icon as a whole. So let's jump in. First off is Min. Hey, Min, welcome to Iron Icon. First official personal interview. We're so honored to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. It's our pleasure. Now, as much as normally these interviews go for an hour, today is not that day. We're going to have you back again to do a full-blown hour session where we talk everything about Icon. But today I wanted to focus on the big news that has happened, which is the incentive program. So, Min, how do you feel about kicking off an incentive program that rivals the best in the industry, one of the biggest in the industry as well?
Yeah, well, I guess it wasn't a big surprise because we've talked about it, I think, in December, and just the fact that we had a reserve sitting in our, for the community from the very beginning, and there's been a lot of talks around where that, reserve is going to be utilized for, and I think we all knew that, the main part of the whole project is interoperability and the use of BTP and Nexus and facilitating, a multi-chain world, cross-chain world that we want to, push. I think it's all kind of coming together. So overall, I mean, we feel, and I feel very, very positive about where we are, where we stand in terms of what we've been delivering, the technology, and the community, the ecosystem that we're building at our own pace. So we're very excited about the entire direction. And the program itself is a very strong part of that, where we're trying to, the whole point is about the program is that I know that there are other programs out there similar to this, but we don't really necessarily see it as a rival to those programs, but a more of a complementary, because we're not trying to take away users or take away total value locked from other chains to our chain. The point of our liquidity program is just not that. It's to encourage the use of the our main product and main technology And the first, we want to be able to get a lot of users to test the product, to use it, and give us good feedback. And I mean, we're very, very happy that we're starting this. We're very excited, and it should show you that BTP and Nexus is almost ready, and we felt was the right time for us to make this announcement and really give it a big push. And I think a lot of people would know that we haven't ever introduced anything at this scale and this large amount. So that
Yeah.
just should show our dedication and our confidence in what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. It's funny you actually just said that at the start was um
Mm-hmm.
there have been these reserves, and I know, like, I've been an iconist from day one, so I've seen some of the stuff you've had to live through and people ask questions, but at the end of the day, that's always the flagship product from day one has been interoperability. So it makes sense that funds have been
Right.
managed very efficiently and correctly to save for when the product was ready, and the product is now ready, and that's why it's such a large incentive program has been released. So yeah, sensational. That is exactly what I thought when I saw the announcement. I was like, oh, this is exactly it. And it's great. And the community and everyone in the crypto space should appreciate it. So looking
Yeah.
forward to what it leads to. And that leads to my next question, which is, so what do you hope to see happen from here? Like, what are some of the chains you hope will take notice and onboard with BTP? And I'm looking for a strategic answer here, but I'm also looking for a personal answer. Some of your personal projects that you look at that will look at this and go, yes, let's get on board.
Yeah. I guess let me answer your kind of second question first. More than the change itself, because we feel, once we have some traction with, just a handful of partners that we already have, and we proved the technology, and we did create what we believe to be the most decentralized cross-chain bridge or interoperability solution out there. So we think, unlike we have a product that is unlike anything else out there, and from a user perspective, it might not look very different, but these partners that we work with, they know what we have created is very sophisticated, and I think everyone is quite skeptical, but in terms of architecture and everything is there, and we're
Mhm.
launching it. So we're all kind of waiting to see how things will pan out. And of course, there's going to be some iteration, but in terms of
Mm.
the bringing in new blockchain networks into our, and connecting it to the icon through BTP, or including them into BTP working group. I mean, we're not that concerned. We think that will just naturally grow from here. We're now more focused on like the BTP use cases and working with just another handful of DeFi applications or NFT applications, for example, or NFT networks, where you could actually figure out like, okay, like what are some of the assets that we want to bridge across and use in our network. What are some of the other cool use cases where it's not about just bringing in assets, but being the middle technology that could facilitate that asset transfers between other networks, right? So you could see um, assets from one of our partners being sent to another partner, and all powered by BTP. So
Mm.
we want to be able to facilitate those type of use cases, and that's something that we're very excited about, and something that we're hoping and we're working very hard on. In terms of just what I'm hoping for personally, I mean, right now we're still, it's still early, I would say, product stage, which
Mm.
means we're gonna get the product out, we're gonna get some early users, and this incentive program will get us that early users. And we're gonna get, good feedback from this group, and this group will tell us how to improve the product. So we want to continue improving for
Mm.
the foreseeable future. But kind of the long-term goal and our vision and what we hope to accomplish is that we want to basically help with the globalization of the blockchain industry, which means how we view things. And as a lot of the times these blockchain networks are referred to as digital nations. And these digital nations, we believe, is going to continuously develop, and there will be many, many blockchains out there. So a lot of people see, and we believe that the future is multi-chain. And these digital nations will individually have some kind of develop some kind of a competitive advantage where they're going to be good at something. And eventually, just how our world has, through free trade and international trade, has created globalization and being able to, do trades across different nations. And it's going to be very similar in the blockchain nations where we'll be transferring a lot of these use cases and assets across different digital nations. And a lot of that is going to be powered by the ICON network. So we don't believe that any specific technology will be dominant. There will be many different types of technologies out there, just similar to how people love using different coding in different languages. People love speaking different languages. I mean, there's just people love variety. So we're going to do our part in creating this multi-chain world, and our technology is going to be a critical part of that.
Yeah, no, that's well put and excellent. Good overview. So look, Min, that's what I had. I'm just doing a quick around the grounds. Is there anything you feel, anything else you want to say while I have you? If not, we can close things out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we could definitely talk for hours and hours about the future that we want to build. And, I think the reason why you and I, plus so many different people, are actually building in this industry is because, more than just, the price itself of these assets, we love the future that we're building, right? So, I would like to say that, ICON has been, dedicated to building in the past, ever since 2017 when we were first known, and we've been, building nonstop. Our team has been growing. Our community has been growing, and it's been very exciting to see these types of developments. So, we're here to stay, and we'll have some fun this year.
Yeah. No, excellent news, and you're spot on, Min. Like you can even see in the last couple of weeks, we've seen Craft. Well, Gangster Bet had a bit of their show limelight, and people have come in following this great NFT project. And then we've had a bit of the NFT space erupt, and all attention has shifted on Craft, going, well, hang on, what's this great store we have where people are getting ownership off the actual platform if they just use it. And it's been consistent, and the team's come out firing, and we're gaining users through. And it's funny because you and Scott and everyone have been saying, we have, while it was focused on the private side, we have been creating on the public side critical infrastructure apps, and they all exist. We've got the money market, we've got the minting assets and AMMs and NFT stores, and we're getting our time. Even before the incentive announcement, this had already kicked off, and the incentive announcement is just something that's going to put things into overdrive for flagship product, which is BTP. So
right.
I'm really excited about 22.
Yeah, one additional thing which I also talked about is that a lot of protocols or projects are focused on DeFi, and rightfully so. There's a lot of money to be made in DeFi, and a lot of great experiments happening right now, and a lot of people doing yield chasing, and it's all kind of
guilty.
It's all fun, and guilty here too. So yeah, there's a lot of innovation and things that everyone's trying out. So a lot of these cross-chain interoperability bridges are currently there to support a lot of the DeFi ecosystem. But one huge part that we're missing is also the NFT ecosystem, where nobody, or there are a few that are thinking about or working on trying to bridge NFT assets across different chains, and there's still bigger questions to be answered, which is like where what's the future of NFTs? Like, where is it going to go? Like, what kind of additional use cases are there going to be there? And with those use cases, like, how do we bridge over NFT assets to different blockchains or different applications for those? So there's a lot of questions to be answered, but I think at Icon we've been thinking about NFT, and it's not just NFT, just any type of smart contracts or any type of tokens out there. We can bridge into different blockchains. So our we've what we really created is like more like a, I hate this word, but Swiss Army knife of interoperability, where don't just think about interoperability as just one small segment or just DeFi. There's this whole world of tokens, and NFTs just another big part that we haven't cracked yet. But there's this whole world of future of NFT, or a future of tokens, like security tokens. There's going to be things that we haven't even discussed yet, right? So there's this whole future, and BTP is going to be able to facilitate all those transactions and all those assets, because we've created this very flexible technology that allows us to do that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Oh, awesome. Looking forward to it. So I'm just picking up hints all over, Min. I'm feeling that there's something NFT related around the corner as well. So let's see how that pans out.
Yeah, I mean we're experimenting with other partners, and there's a lot of excitement around NFTs around the world, but especially in like places like South Korea, where the gaming industry is very big. So hopefully we could, all we're here to do is trying to lend a hand and trying to figure out, trying to create something new and innovative. And it doesn't always work out, but that's what this industry is about. It's about trying different things, right?
It is the innovative space, and part of innovation is some succeed, some aspects will succeed, and some of them will fail. And you kind of look at it and go, well, what are the learning points, and push forward. I agree. Like the NFT space is just getting started. For example, like Harmony's DeFi Kingdoms, that's a great example of NFT gamification of DeFi. So and you would have looked at this pixel game, no one would have even given it a second glance, but people just have gotten hooked, and they're doing the same thing as if they were using platforms, but the fact that it's gamified and a character walks and does a few different things and yield farms, that people have really erupted to the concept. So I think unique use cases of NFTs and gamification component are just being discovered. We haven't even, the play to earn model has kicked off, but I reckon we haven't even scratched the surface of its potential.
Right. And we won't be for another, I don't know, few years, I believe. I mean, it's going to be, we're starting to see some of these games that, sort of work out. I wouldn't say reach this full potential. There's a lot of excitement around these new gaming platforms, and it's great. Compared to like 2017, I believe back in 2017 when we were starting off, there were so many gaming companies back then too. None of them worked out, and fast forward 4 or 5 years, we're now seeing some of the gaming platforms work out, right? So it's pretty interesting. So it's going to take another 4 or 5 years for something else to develop. So I think we need a lot of patience in this industry, to be very frank.
It's funny, you're right, because it's probably the one industry that from a outside perspective doesn't have patience, right? Everyone's very focused on one aspect and don't realize that these things take time, and especially when you start dealing with third parties who have their own priorities. Once that entire process and creation process takes time. I think sometimes it's lost that these things take time, and everyone just wants every day something new happening. And if it's not happening, it's like, well, then something's wrong here. But it's just not the case. So I think well put, Min. It's good to put context into it.
Yeah, of course. But thanks for doing this. Thanks for your time. And yeah, we'll do this again soon.
Definitely. Thank you, Min, for coming on the show. Until next incentive announcement, which is probably next month. Huh? I'm kidding. Cool.
We'll see. All right.
Thanks, Min. Appreciate it.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Scott. So we're going around, the foundation and keen to get some info on how everyone's been feeling about this insane incentive program that has been announced. So just quickly, I won't get you to do intros and stuff like that because you're pretty much a local on the show. So how do you feel, Scott, about kicking off one of the biggest incentive programs in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited, especially from just like an icon ecosystem like focus perspective, just to have like this very clear like laser focus plan of what we're working on going forward, of just straight up BTP products, BTP as an architecture, just focusing solely on that is something I'm really excited about, and essentially just going all in. So definitely amped about it.
Love it. And what do you hope to see come out of this? So, like, what kind of incentives will take the lead? What are you hoping it will do for BTP adoption as a whole? I know I've thrown a few questions, but overall, what are you hoping?
Yeah, I want to see unique use cases. It's going to start with token wrapping, I'm sure, as like that's just the very basic kind of proof of concept of any interoperability solution, in my view. But really what I'm looking forward to is the funds that are allocated towards new use cases of BTP, and really seeing like a cross-chain application thrive and be better because it's cross-chain.
Yeah. That's cool. And then finally, Scott, so you've been in the background. I know you've been hustling, chasing chains, trying to pitch the solution initially to get people on board. And obviously, once people have started building for it, they've realized, oh, this is pretty cool. Who secretly are you hoping to kind of entice with this incentive program that you currently haven't got building or giving us the attention we should be getting in the crypto space? Who are you hoping secretly? Your desire. This is off script.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like I really want to just see this. I want to see BTP getting used for a cross-chain app built on any platform, really. So really what I'm looking forward to is not necessarily like a specific ecosystem per se, but the attention of application developers as they start to think about, is it best for me to build this app on a siloed blockchain, or is it actually better for me to build a legitimate cross-chain application? And I want to get the attention of those developers.
So what you're saying there, Scott, is you would hope when a dev sits down and go, okay, where should I build? And then they start looking and going, oh, you know what? I'm going to build on, hypothetically, Avalanche, because I know what I'm doing there, and I can see they've got a BTP connection, and I can leverage off that for cross-chain applications. Is that what you're indirectly saying here? That
very close. I like the way you phrase that. As the developers asking themselves and evaluating, where do I want to build this project? I want them to stumble upon BTP and say, I want to build this project everywhere.
Yeah, love it. Okay. And then obviously, I know I've picked your brain about this. There's certain perks if they optimize and build on Icon itself. But from what you're saying, though, is the beauty of it is to leverage on their skill sets as long as it's connected to BTP. Love it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Look, Scott, really appreciate it. I'm doing the rounds around the foundation, so I'm really keen to see TJ, Min. I got to chase up Daeki and Ricky as well, but it's going to be fun to get everyone's insights onto this about this incentive program. So thank you again for joining us.
No problem, Fez. Thanks for having me as always. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Hey, Daeki. Welcome back to Iron Icon. How you been?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. As you know, the incentive programs out there, and I'm doing a quick around the grounds to get a bit of a feel of how everyone's, feeling. It's quite big. It's huge. So,
Right.
how do you feel about kicking off one of the biggest incentive programs in the industry?
No, I think this is great news for the Icon ecosystem overall, and actually for the overall blockchain ecosystems in general, right? I think we've seen a lot of these L1 incentive programs come out last year from various L1s, right? And obviously, I think the Icon was probably considering one as these a lot of these layer one protocols launch their programs, but I think they were a lot of them people were thinking about like what is the core for Icon, right? Is it I think Icon as a layer one is interesting, but I think in the end, it's what it's trying to achieve is like the interoperability across all these different chains. So I think the it's actually interesting that it's actually the first I think incentive program that's solely focused on interoperability, right? And this
Mm,
means that what's different from a lot of these past incentive program is that a lot of the incentive program is about like come to our chain, come to our digital
mm,
nation, right? But now this is more about it doesn't have to be like icon specific digital nation. It's really to make sure that there's a lot of these international trades across these digital nations proliferate. And this
mm.
is, I think, like kind of positive sum game where like let's not like try to bring all the assets to Icon or anything like that. But let's like try to get more stuff happening between a lot of these different chains, and the incentive is solely for that. So I think from that perspective, it's a pretty interesting program.
Yeah, it's funny, Doki. Even Scott, and just before we started recording, I mentioned Scott said something interesting, and you've touched on it in a way as well, because
Okay,
he mentioned, it's not about building on Icon. It is literally BTP enables,
right.
and this incentive program will enable any dev with the right skill sets on the chain they're interested in. If it's got a BTP integration in it, they can just focus and build their DApp on there, so they don't have to switch skill sets. They know their environments and utilize the underlying technology. And you've kind of said that as well in what you've just described, because it's not about building on Icon. It's just about using the solution and incentivizing it to attract anyone
Right.
and everyone.
I
Um,
mean, Scott
that's
and I do talk a lot, so there's probably a lot of similar knowledge or thoughts happening, I guess. But again, I think it really benefits
yeah,
blockchain ecosystem as a whole, and I think that's like what's really interesting here.
yeah, yeah. Look, so then, what do you hope? So, Daiki, like I asked this, and I'm not talking like foundation hopes. Your hope. What do you hope you see get incentivized through this program? Like, what chains are you hoping kind of go? Oh, we haven't looked at this integration. Maybe we should. And personally, have you got some DApps or something that your fan favorite on different chains that you use that you wish could
Oh man,
jump on this program? I know it's a loaded question.
it is. It is. I mean, just being realistic, I think again, like BTP has like a lot of great potential, and I think down the road in the future there will be some probably like cross-chain optimized DApps
Mm,
that's using BTP. So for example, like I think something like cross-chain yield aggregator would be pretty cool.
mm,
Like I can just like put assets and then one chain I will just like look for best ills across different chains and like get the ild from you, right? Which is great. I think that's probably a little bit further away.
mm,
Probably some of the more realistic, I think midterm ones I think that I'm excited about would be like cross-chain NFTs, I think can be pretty interesting. Right now, a lot of these NFTs are very chain specifics.
mm,
But what if you can actually try to aggregate these NFTs from different cross chains, and even I don't know, have something cool like gamified NFT, I don't know, war cross chain, right? Like
yeah.
it's basically like digital nations. Like if you can have these digital nations NFTs like basically compete with each other for a specific milestones, I think that can be pretty interesting.
Mm,
And I think short term wise, like probably the most clear one is just like the token transfer. So I think, like a lot of these dexes, I mean, I think still like centralized exchanges serve the purpose because a lot of these chains are not really connected to each
mm,
other. So I think with the BTP, I think hopefully as it gets integrated to more chains, like the actual reliance on centralized exchange would go down, and then people can do everything on chain eventually. I think that's kind of the short term realistic goal here.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. I didn't think of that
the central entities getting phased out of it. You make a valid point. Can move essentially. UST is a bad example. Let's say DAI from here without going to any central entity, just because they're connected on the BTP network. That's great.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, eventually, I think, I'm sure like there are some people who are just going to live off of on-chain purely, right? And then I think right now, I think there are some people who do that, but like it has to be within the specific ecosystem, like Ethereum or Terra or etc., right? But I think the ideal scenario is like it is digital nation, so you should be able to go from anywhere to anywhere, hopefully without being blocked by any central entity, right? So I think that can be enabled by BTP as well.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so then the final question, disregarding incentives at the moment, BTP. Who do you wish? Currently, obviously, we've got quite a fair few partners. What's the one chain that you're gunning for that you want to get on board BTP?
Chain wise.
Yes, and you won't be quoted on this. Just your views.
Okay. Yeah. Don't quote me on this. I've been pushing on Ethereum. I would say Ethereum is probably the chain that I'll be most excited about, just because Ethereum has a lot of, it probably has the most utility, I would say, at this point in terms of things you can do, and obviously kind of the assets that there are. So I think that would be probably the most exciting one. I think Ethereum, though, I think is actually with BTP, it's a little bit harder chain to actually integrate. So I think that's why I think Icon has kind of decided to go with chains that are easier to integrate, but also has like a strategy value. So, but I think eventually when BTP is connected to Ethereum, I think that'll be really interesting from there on.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it once we get there. But like that's why we have ice and snow and things. We're going down different paths as well to expedite that.
Interesting ones as well, right? Ice and snow. I think we're already seeing some devs kind of showing excitement to build on ice and snow. So,
okay,
pretty excited there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great news. There you go. A little bit of alpha drop right at the end. Thanks, Daeki. Love it. But is there anything else, Daeki? I think that's all the questions I had.
No, I think it's like great time for interoperability in general. I think iSix Station we've had these blog posts that we still quote. I think like been written like almost 3 years ago, where we wrote a blog post around like digital nations. And if you think about it, it really is like a digital nation. It's becoming very clear nowadays that a lot of these like layer 1 blockchains are becoming almost like its own digital nations, and there are a lot of DAOs, like basically companies built on these digital nations. And there's obviously like these taxes you're paying, which is like transaction fees. And some countries obviously have a very cheap tax versus some countries, right? And then, but I think what's still missing is that there isn't quite a lot of. I think like there's a lot of like one-time chain transfer to chase yield. So let's say if Anchor had a like really high yield, like you'd convert your stables to like UST to earn like yield, or like go to like some new DeFi apps to earn some yield. But it's not. It's very mercenary / transactional. I wouldn't really call it like a truly international like finance / interactions. So I think as more of these the various layer ones really establish themselves in 2022, I think we'll see some more interesting, elaborate communications cross chains, and I hope BTP enables some of them.
Yeah, no, good. I think on that, like, I'm very excited to see. We got the DeFi 2.0. A lot of these, I know there are a ton of OHM forks. However, there's some that have established themselves on different chains, and we know on Icon we got Karma DAO. I know you would be particularly excited as well because of the protocol on liquidity aspect, but yeah, the reserve currency is interesting because as soon as more chains get connected, say on BTP, all of a sudden they can start issuing bonds of all these cross-chain assets to diversify their treasury rather than just having it, which all of them are actively now trying to do since the markets have been correcting. So I've been thinking of that and finding it'll be quite cool once we have a few networks connected and like ICX becomes one of the bond issuers on, like, that'll be very cool. I can't wait to see that.
I think that will be definitely an interesting route for sure. I think protocol and liquidity definitely has become a thing. So interesting to get basically ICX in the hands of a lot of these bond depositors, I guess, on their right?
Yeah, agree. Okay, I can keep talking, but Daeki, thank you so much for joining. I believe we've got pretty much almost the whole gang, and this incentive is huge, and it's great because every cent ICX goes up, I've been doing the math, how much extra the grant is going to
Yep.
last. Yeah, so but thank you, Daeki, for joining. Take care.
No worries.
Hey TJ, thanks for joining us. We're doing the rounds around the foundation. You're next up. We're talking the incentive program. So can you tell me how you feel about kicking off one of the biggest incentive programs in the industry?
Hey Fez, thanks for having me on this podcast. But I think I'm mostly just excited for the public to actually learn about this program, because it's been something that our team's been talking about since I think around like September or October. So we saw kind of the big L1 incentive program push in around like August and September. But we also kind of wanted to think of like, how can we differentiate ourselves from these other programs? So most of these programs are either liquidity incentive programs or mostly just like ecosystem funds. And they basically were trying to achieve a certain like use case or to attract liquidity and stuff like that. But we really wanted to find something unique to Icon, and something that we realized is that our flagship product is BTP. It's kind of what we're pushing. We're solely focused on interoperability, and we're trying to think of like, what can we do to actually make BTP be successful and kind of have this reality of interoperability within the blockchain space. So, and we kind of came across where we can actually incentivize or create like an incentive program to make this possible. So we wanted to make basically the first interoperability incentive program where not only are we incentivizing liquidity on other blockchains, so like adoption of our wrapped assets, the distribution of those assets and whatnot, but we also want to focus on the future. So like right now, kind of the narrative is more around token transfers and whatnot. So most bridges are just doing token transfers, either natively or wrapped assets and whatnot. But how our team sees the future is that interoperability is bigger than these token transfers. That's kind of the tip of the iceberg. And as you go down the iceberg, you see the opportunities with NFT transfers. So that has a big use case in like these profile picture projects and metaverses and play to earn games and whatnot. But also what's something that I'm most excited about is these cross-chain contract calls. So basically how BTP is built is this jet architecture, right? So it's not just built to do token transfers, but it's built to do any arbitrary data transfer between one blockchain to another. And that's where we see the future of interoperability going, where you can have like these aggregators that live on one blockchain, but are able to source different yields from different blockchains and analyze them and aggregate them and essentially give the best rate or the best yield to their communities. But these assets don't need to leave their native chains, right? So I think that's and like as we go down the iceberg, like that's only what we can see. And then there's going to be more use cases that we can't even think of right now. And it's just going to be like interoperability in general is going to allow for so many different opportunities that we haven't thought of yet, which is obviously very exciting.
Yeah, it's funny you say this, because in my catch up with Scott, one of the points that I had an aha moment in the conversation, and you've kind of said it in your own way as well, what he focused on was he was very excited in a way that a dev can kind of
look at a chain, not go, I need to build on this chain. They can kind of look at a range of chains once BTP is adopted and has, is deployed, and go, well, which one suits my dev needs, and still utilize that cross-chain functionality, aggregator, etc. So they're not limited. In fact, it expands their opportunities based on their skill set. Which is something you've kind of crossed on as well, and it seems to be a common theme, which, yeah, it's quite exciting. And it's part of the interoperability. We're talking interoperability, chains of moving assets, but it should be a choice for the builder to their skill set where they want to go and build and deploy. As if it's connected to BTP, they have that option.
Yeah, and I think that's like a very important point as well, even in terms of like security and stuff. So it's like up to these protocols, they can choose to take all the BTP ecosystem and aggregate all that data. Obviously, that's a big task, but there'll probably be more opportunities. But if it's a protocol that's concerned about security and whatnot, they can whitelist certain protocols or whitelist certain assets so that they can give the experience that they want to their users, right? So there's a lot of optionality in that, where they have the choice on whether they want to whitelist certain blockchains or take on multiple and whatnot. So I think that's super interesting, and something that, like, people think that every single blockchain that's connected in the BTP ecosystem has to be involved in every single protocol. And there can literally be like one protocol that only connects or sources yields from Near and Harmony. Like cross chain is still 2 chains, right? So it doesn't need to be 50 different chains.
No, yeah. And look, I think one of the things from perspective, this is the future. I love future state, but that first iteration is going to be the simplest of things, which is token transfers from one chain to the other. But the beauty of the solution is it is secured by cryptography. We keep coming back to that. It's not, the custodian that we're seeing essentially most of the interoperability solutions out there being at the moment. Which is cool and awesome. So, TJ, that's really good insights. As you were talking, I'm like, man, you just got to come back to the podcast in an hour long, and I can pick your brain, CPS, all these things, and do a big TJ session, unlike that last one that I didn't get to publish. Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
So, next question. I know CPS is close to your heart. You work on it quite often, and very involved with it. So, what would you say, how do you feel this will complement CPS and and also, do you want to call out some differences between the incentive program and CPS?
Yeah, so I feel like obviously most of our community understands what the CPS is, but quick brief for anyone new that might be listening. But basically the CPS is Icon's contribution proposal system. And what that stands for is basically a decentralized grant system where anyone, it doesn't have to be a development group, doesn't need to be a P-rep in the ecosystem, but anyone can create a proposal for a grant for whatever use case they want, whether it's to do some type of marketing, to do infrastructure, create a DeFi platform, whatnot. And they basically create these proposals, submit these proposals, and the P-reps of our ecosystem, or basically the validators of our ecosystem that are participating in the CPS, can approve or deny these types of proposals, right? So this removes a lot of like central bias and any type of centralized grant issue that people might think. So that's kind of like the higher level overview of what the CPS is and whatnot. And we saw a lot of great projects come out through the CPS already, like GangstaBet, Wineable, and a bunch of other DeFi projects that are coming out soon. But so going back to your original question of like, what are the differences? How can they coexist together? How can they be complementary? And basically how I see it is I see the CPS as more of like an ecosystem fund. So like part of Icon inflation is going directly towards funding our ecosystem growth. So when I reference the CPS now, I reference it a lot as like the decentralized growth engine of our application layer. So basically, I see anything that can benefit Icon directly should be going towards the CPS. And then this incentive program that we're talking about is more towards incentivizing like the adoption and awareness of our specific flagship product BTP, right? So I don't see like a ton of overlap in terms of the types of grants being proposed to each of them. I think that there's a lot of similarities in terms of how they can benefit each other, right? So there's kind of a positive feedback between the two, where the BTP incentive program can create more adoption, more products, more transaction volume on BTP, and that those fees that are generated go into the CPS, which helps kind of fund the growth of our ecosystem, and then and vice versa, the growth of our ecosystem can help the adoption of our BTP and interoperability technology. So it hopefully it becomes like a flywheel where one is kind of incentivizing the other, and it becomes this kind of positive feedback loop, right?
Yeah, cool. No, love it. Okay, so now this is a question for you, a personal question. With the incentive program as well, it should open a lot of eyes, get people looking in. If they hadn't heard of the solution, hopefully explore it. Who do you secretly want in your heart to kind of hopefully persuade and bring on board to adopt BTP? What chain?
That's a good question, because especially now with the recent rise of a lot of like L1 blockchains, smart contract enabled blockchains, I think there's so many different unique kind of like siloed ecosystems that I would love to integrate within BTP and whatnot. But I actually am thinking this a bit more on, actually the first one that comes to mind is something like ZK Sync. So a lot of these like these scaling solutions for these large blockchains and whatnot, ZK rollups are obviously going to be a big part of the future of crypto. And I think being able to integrate with something like that, where right now obviously Icon doesn't have like ZK, any like zero knowledge technology and whatnot in development, I think an integration like that could be very positive for our ecosystem and like other ecosystems we're connected with. So in terms of like a blockchain integration, I think that'd be interesting. Others that come to mind is like Tezos has a lot of NFT stuff going on, and Flow has a lot of like gaming going on and whatnot. And then there's like the obvious, like the Polygons, the Solanas, Avalanche, like those types in the world. But trying to give you a bit more of a unique answer. So, but like you can go on like other than just like B2B integrations, we can talk about like what products do we want on BTP, right? So I think like an interesting product that's on Harmony right now and getting a lot of attention is DeFi Kingdoms. Basically gamified DeFi and whatnot. And with them launching on Avalanche, like if we had an integration with Avalanche, it'd be really cool to have this interoperability technology in the back end of their game, where they're in this specific metaverse, right? But they don't really know when they're on, but BTP is handling all that in the back end, right? So that's like a use case I can see. And then there's like I could name basically any aggregator, like a DEX aggregator, like 1inch would have like a field day with all the different DEXs on the BTP. So I mean, like the possibilities are endless, and I think after this program, it's going to be very interesting to see who is interested in integrating BTP, as well as it would just be like easier for our team too to do some business development and say like, here's this incentive program we have. We'd love to help fund you to integrate some of our technology, right? So.
So that's where as well, like Red Fox and stuff, we can see, you can hint at some of those partnerships that are happening. People don't understand the potential, but this is what it enables. I actually, I could keep talking, could pick your brain, because it's with ZK rollups and things, I guess, is the solution deployable directly to layer 2s, or does it have to go into layer 1s? And I don't expect you to give a detailed answer. It's very high level.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's something that in terms of my own education, I'm still trying to learn more about, like these zero knowledge proofs, these different scaling solutions and whatnot. So I'm not going to give you like the super technical answer of what to do, but I think that like that technology in general, and that's like a narrative that I see being very popular in the industry for a long time, especially with like the scaling issues of certain blockchains. And as we go towards like more of like a privacy centric adoption in the future. So I think something like that would be interesting, as well as like there are like aggregators of, I don't know if you'd call them aggregators, but like the first other things that come to my mind are like Zapper Finance or Zapperfi, and like 8board. I think 8board has
dashboards,
like a bridge aggregator.
Yeah.
These dashboards I think will be very important too for us to get BTP in there as well, so people see that they have these different options to use alongside other interoperability solutions, right? So that's gonna be something that whether or not they reach out to us first, our team will definitely be doing the hard work on that end to make sure that BTP is a part of these for the long term, right? Because we want to be a part of that overall interoperability conversation, because actually is basically kind of what comes to mind is like the recent like 2022 predictions. Everyone, like a lot of influencers and VCs did their types of predictions, you know, at the end of the year, and like what do they see in 2022 being big? And I think the multi-chain narrative is pretty well established now. So they're talking about like multi-chain, like interoperability and whatnot. And I definitely want Icon to be a part of that conversation, right? Because I think our technology definitely deserves to be there. I think we're presenting a lot of unique opportunities to the entire industry. So it'd be really cool if we can start being part of that.
Yep, agree. Looking forward to that. Hopefully, well, the incentive program will lead. I think this is where I'm getting excited. The 1-inch scenario you gave is actually quite cool, because they made their fame, right? And Ethereum, because all these AMMs started popping up, 1-inch was a spot to go to. It'll sort to see the best price. All of a sudden, if we enable technology where you can expand on your vision and go, just come to 1-inch and source your tokens from all chains, and it'll source you the best gas fee / price and give you, you know, the best rate on that token. And in the background, it's using BTP. That's
exactly, because like the super very very long-term vision is that like these people aren't going to know what blockchains they're on, right? So all these apps are they're gonna abstract away the specific blockchains, the specific bridging, like all that user experience is going to be abstracted away. And these different products are essentially just going to give the user the best rate, the best price, like all those different experiences. And the back end is going to be super important. Like these different interoperability technologies are going to be super important to make that high quality user experience actually happen. So obviously that's not going to be something that happens tomorrow or even in like 6 months, but the long-term vision is that's what I see. And like, that's where I think the industry is going to go.
Yeah. Excellent. Look, TJ, thank you so much for jumping on. I did say we would have a quick 10-minute session. We've turned it into almost a 20-minute chat, but it's great. I love walking away learning something, and I have from this chat. So thanks for coming on. Great incentive program, 200 million at current market rates. And the best part about this incentive program is, you know, if we have a bit of a run, it just goes up. We have more money to deploy on the product that Icon is all about. So congratulations to the team, and well done. And thank you for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you, Fez. Always good to talk to you.
Cool. Take care.